In my culture, death is not the end. It's more of a stepping off point. You reach out with both hands and Bast and Sekhmet. They lead you into the green veldt where you can run forever.
All right, guys. Well, as you just heard, that is our little tribute to Chadwick Boseman, who died this past weekend, aged 43, of colon cancer. Obviously, you didn't hear the big TWIG intro this week. You didn't hear a promo. You might have heard a commercial because that's just how the pod service works that we use. So if you got a car commercial, I'm really, really sorry. But that's how you pay the bills and pay the hosting service. Anyway, without any further ado, I am Mike the Birdman. I am joined literally beside me
in studio for the first time in recording the main show. What, like a year?
It's been a long time.
I think since last summer.
Yeah, so we're trying out some of the new TWIG Studio interface, and we're just having our usual weekly visit, safely and socially distanced, so don't worry. But yeah, so this, we're going to take the first couple minutes of the show to kind of be a little bit serious here, because Alex messaged me with this news on, I think it was Friday night or Saturday night.
It was yesterday, I think.
Yeah, yesterday, yeah. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
I think I just said, or was it Saturday? No, it might have been Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night.
I think I just messaged saying, big news. You're like, what? And I'm like, bam. And it was, I sent the CBC article,
yeah,
and the TMZ article.
We're like, wow. And in this business, literally, you can count on TMZ more often than not.
When it comes for like proof of life, one way or the other, generally they're right 90% of the time or more.
Yeah,
and it wasn't like tabloid sites posting it other than them. When it comes from CBC Canada,
yeah, you're like, yeah, because they're going to double check and triple check all their sources. So obviously this death hits hard for a lot of people because he is so young. Colon cancer is something that is terrible. In fact, I actually got some messages from some fans on Twitter expressing their grief, but also shock because the cancer has hit home for their families, especially this particular strain of cancer. So, wow. Plus, last year when my father-in-law passed away from an advanced form of cancer, this hits hard. And I didn't expect Chadwick's death to hit me like it did. As I was editing the little tribute I heard, which I know is just 2 clips, but when he shouts Wakanda Forever when they're facing down Thanos' army in Infinity War, that just hit in a very special way.
And when it comes to celebrity stuff, a lot of people will look and go, well, it's a celebrity, you're not personally attached to them. You get people on both sides of the argument saying, like, how can it hit you that hard? Well, you are attached in a sense of you grow up watching somebody, especially, like, I'd say the average age of fans.
Yep.
But when you think of the younger generations, where he hadn't been with us that long as an actor, where he had this prolific, huge career, but what he had were at pivotal points in a lot of people's lives, mm-hmm. and what he represented was, in a lot of ways, finally bringing proper diversity to, like, the mainstream when it came to superhero movies, big action films. Like, you've had stars of color before, mm-hmm. but what you had here was one of the first times that a comic book hero could be, you know, a very big inspiration to kids.
Yeah,
because you could argue Blade, but Blade's an R-rated movie.
Yeah, and it's not Spawn, and that was a guy in makeup for most of the movie anyway.
And even then, those are R-rated or NC-17 movies.
Yeah.
So they were not something you would show as like a shining example to children.
Yeah, and then this movie even got recognized by Hollywood itself as being very important when he did Black Panther. And I was watching his acceptance speech at, I think it was the SAG Awards or Film Achievement or something like that. And it was, he said, there is no Black Panther without Denzel Washington. And just the powerful speeches he gave there. There was also something he did too, and I saw this clip. It was at a press junket for, I think it was Black Panther, and he was talking how he visited cancer wards for children, and one of the kids had said to him something along the lines of, I just want to hold on to see this movie, and he tries to tell the story and he stops.
Well, I think wasn't one of them that he was there on his birthday and made it sound like, that he was going for just for the kids, which in itself is fantastic, but you realize that he was actually getting treated himself and was using the time he had. He's like, I'm here for myself, but I can't just think of myself. Mm-hmm. So he went around and was helping entertain the kids, which, some celebrities do for show. Some do because they genuinely want to. And the more and more your people are sharing it, you're finding out he was one of those guys that did a lot that wasn't even shown. Yeah,
like he chose to keep this private to himself, which is his right, because a lot of people were expressing, I didn't even know he was sick, and that's great that he wanted to keep his life private and share with us only his strength. Because once that, one of the things that I've read, once it's in the media that you're sick, that's how you're always going to be portrayed. He didn't want that to be taken away, I think, from the roles, what he was doing.
Yeah, because you look at like Michael Douglas when he was ill with cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Once he was revealed, like the big one was when he went on Letterman and explained what was happening, and he was stage 4 at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, well, how many stages are there? He's like, 4. Letterman didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And that was live. That wasn't rehearsed or anything. And after that was the narrative for him, and he fortunately recovered. But for years, that's all people talked about.
Yeah.
And, in this situation, I can see why he wanted to do that. And when it got to a point where he was looking gaunt and that he tried to, steer people away by saying I'm preparing for a movie role because he wanted to keep it private.
Yeah.
And, then all this happens now and you go, okay, well, that was probably the best course of action he could take. Not for him, not for his own ego, but because think about how his family would have been hounded.
Yeah.
So this, kudos and respect to him. I would say people are going to, they're probably going to hold vigils and they're going to watch movies. They're going to do things.
Actually, I think because this show you're hearing on Monday, I think ABC is showing a tribute to Chadwick and they're showing Black Panther tonight.
Okay.
Or on Sunday night.
Yeah, like they're going to be putting together stuff for that. So, it's sad, but at the same time, he was a private but very, genuine person from what was seen there.
Like, ultimately, if you want to see more of his movies, I recommend 42, which is where he plays Jackie Robinson, and I really liked it. I reviewed it on this show a couple of years back. So it was really good, and thank you for your contributions to movies. Your Black Panther was a cultural moment for comic book movies and movies in general. So I don't know what else to say other than you walk amongst the stars now. Rest well, and Wakanda forever. Now that we have the heavy stuff out of the way, let's plan to do the show we were going to do a couple of days ago. Let's have some fun. And we typically talk about what we've been doing this past week. And this past week, I've been recording reviews for a couple of different things, 2 very different things. I worked on my review for Scooby-Doo, Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, which I played with Alex and Blair. I was a bad guy. That was fun.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I know, right? Ha! I am the dickhead who got caught in a closet, and now I'm going to destroy you because I have evil puppets.
It's funny. Birdman generally plays Paragon in video games. But any chance he gets when it's role-playing or board games, he plays...
I'll be an asshole.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. So look for that review. That'll be the first review you'll hear this week as it ties into another thing we have to talk about a little bit later on. I also played Pathfinder Kingmaker because I don't have a role-playing group right now, or at least not one that meets on the regular. And I got a chance to play that, so that was a lot of fun. I also... I'm trying to cram in Anime August. It's not going to happen, but I'm about 12 episodes deep into Persona 5, the animation.
Finish the Persona 5 thing and then play the Persona game you wanted to play since it came out.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because Funimation just announced a better partnership with Aniplex. Persona 4, the animation's on there too. So,
but it didn't have an English dub.
I think it did.
No, it didn't.
Oh, well, fuck me then. I don't know. Whatever. I'll still watch it.
Fair enough.
But
the game had a dub, but the anime didn't.
Okay. I've been under this labor that they did. So, anyway, yeah, I'm going to check that out at, some point. And then, obviously, play Persona 4 Golden. Actually, there's a lot coming up this week.
Yeah.
I looked at my PlayStation 4 last night, and the Avengers logo popped up on my cross-media bar.
I suggest you just play Persona 4 since you've been wanting it for a year. Don't bother with Avengers.
I'm going to give it a couple of days, then, yeah.
When you get pissed off, you'll have something you can go to that you actually want. Your RPG relationship simulator.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm looking forward to that. Plus, Tony Hawk, as you heard on Turtle Treasure. I'm really looking forward to that. There was a Gamescom interview a couple of days ago, which me and Alex are going to talk about Gamescom, but honestly, I wasn't thrilled at all.
It'll be a brief summary. It'll be a quick, because it's been a while since we had a prototype.
Yeah. That's pretty much been my week. Nothing spectacular. It's been quiet.
For me, I went to movies. Good Lord.
You brave soul.
Well, I will preface this by, this was with much deliberation. I had free passes to see things. And to preface for anybody in the States where things are pretty chaotic right now, most theaters aren't opening or they're just opening this week. In certain parts of Canada, including where we live, theaters have been open for about 6 weeks now. I waited 5 weeks before considering going because that was enough time to see if there's any relative data coming out about, was it a proper safe opening? Have there been any COVID cases tied to it? All of which amount to nil in that it's been clean and safe. And a bigger factor was in the last 2 weeks, there's been one singular new case in my region of 500,000 people.
Yeah, we've had, I think, 9 in the last week with only 1 requiring hospitalization.
Yeah, we've had, actually, there are no people in hospitals in my Tri-City area. So I'm like, okay, that's about as safe as it's going to be for a test dry run. And then the factor was when I get my free voucher and I activate and I check my seating, how many people are going to be there? Well, maximum of 15 people per screen. Okay. And there ended up being, for a couple of the screenings, 7 people spread apart by tons of area. Everybody had to wear masks unless you were taking a sip of your drink or sort of something like that. I've never been to a theater that smelled that clean, ever. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. And especially when, I'm checking it, and if right now the government said, hey, we're safe to do this, and we were pretty strict on shutting things down.
Yeah.
If they're saying it's safe enough, okay, I'll give it a go. So on Friday, I saw Bill and Ted Face the Music. Shortly before the VOD release goes live in the States, because Canada got it a couple days early on in theaters. And I guess that was to fulfill some sort of North American theater deal they had to do. Mm-hmm. It was VVS Films that put it out. The theater, those of us that were there, loved it. It's worth watching. If theaters aren't open in your area or you don't feel safe going to theaters, it is worth getting the VOD copy to watch. I think it's iTunes and a few other platforms have it.
Yes. It's about $20, which is worth it.
Yeah.
When you factor in tickets, concessions.
Yeah. In my case, again, I had a free voucher for it, so party on.
$20, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been $12 for a ticket.
Yeah.
And then transit or whatever. So that was surprisingly a good sequel. and a fitting. It's an end. They're not making another one.
The director had said he said Bill and Ted's story's over, but
yeah,
but Billy and Thea is possible.
I'm saying it's like there's always a possibility, but they have come full circle with it,
which is good.
And it had a fitting end to it, which was great. I then saw Tenet in IMAX, and it's one of the first times I've seen a Christopher Nolan movie in theaters where the audio sounded fine, because usually his movies are very bombastic, and a lot of theaters don't calibrate their audio right, so it really distorts. You can't hear things. Especially his Atmos dubs are usually pretty bad, but this was actually good. You could feel the bass in your chest, but it wasn't like distorting. It is worth seeing on its big screen simply because there's a lot going on, and the movie's about paradoxes, so things start repeating and doing weird things. So if you're going to watch it at home when it hits VOD for you, because I believe it's going to the States in limited releases, but that's only going to be a few screens.
Yeah,
in
it's going to make no money.
In Canada, like the Bill and Ted movie was only played at secondary cinemas, and like as far as it wasn't at the big chain. So it was a very limited release by VVS. Whereas Tenet was released by Warner, it is the first wide release movie in Canada. Every single theater is playing it. In the States, I think whatever theaters are open are going to play it, but I'm willing to bet there's only a couple hundred screens showing it in the States because of individual restrictions. It is going to be worth a rental. I almost feel like a VOD copy might be better because you can watch it multiple times depending on what the rental agreements are. Because that way you could then cycle through and repeat and go, oh, I get that now, that sort of thing. And then I saw New Mutants.
Oh boy,
it's okay for a Hulu TV pilot, not for a theatrical movie. And I'm not the only person saying this. The critical consensus is there's a lot of whitewashing done in it. They purposely, even the creator of the comic
has distanced himself
to the point where he's saying that the series, like the comic, is dead to him because of it. They did a lot of cultural appropriation, miscasting people. There was a couple Native Americans that were supposed to be very prominent in the story that were not even shown in the trailers.
Adam Beach being one of them.
Yes. To the point where I only saw the trailers, didn't know anything about the comic going into it, and the movie presented is 100% different from the movie they showed in the trailers.
Yeah, I was actually doing some reading, but we'll talk a little bit more about this.
That's something later. Just saying that it is as big of a disaster as possible, and if it wasn't free, I wouldn't have seen it. And I the only thing pulling me to theaters at the time was I'm like, it's the last Fox movie. Everything else is 20th century, and in fact, had this movie come out a week or two earlier when it was originally planned to, it would have still used the old logo. They switched the logo to the new one.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So it has the Fox music, but it just says 20th century on there, and everybody that was in the theater, the 10 or so of us went, oh, that was weird seeing that. So, it was the last Fox movie. It's the last remnant. It's what, in my mind, if you had to put like a hashtag on it, it's hashtag what killed Fox.
That's funny. All right, guys, so we have a fantastic show for you this week, obviously starting off on a bit of a somber note. But we will be taking a look at what happened around the entertainment world, around the video game world, and, of course, we have your weird news that just happened to exist at the same time as us. Aren't we lucky? I'm sure something stupid has happened. So we also have reviews coming up from Scooby-Doo from Avalon Hill, which is the board game Betrayal at Mystery Mansion. We're also going to be taking a look at Pathfinder Kingmaker Definitive Edition on the PlayStation 4 from Deep Silver. And what do we have coming from you, Alex?
We have Spiritfarer on Stadia.
All right, so we've got a lot of cool stuff. So stay tuned right here to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We will be back, guys, right after we take off into the Mystery Machine.
Like, is it me? Or does this feel weird?
Yeah, it's strange mysterying without the girls.
No, I mean sitting shotgun. Like I never get a ride up here. It's awesome.
Stereo.
Hey guys, it's Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here with something a little bit different for you today as we take a look at something, well, you might be wondering, how the hell does one get together and play a board game during a quarantine? Well, let me tell you, friends, that answer is remarkably difficult, but we were able to pull this off as I'm immunocompromised and I don't want to die. But we did have fun playing Scooby-Doo Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, coming to us from Avalon Hill. So what this is a variation of the Betrayal at something mansion. I've actually never played these type of games before this, and this was kind of up my alley because the rules have been simplified from what I understand, and you take the role of the various Scooby-Doo characters, Velma, Daphne, Fred, Shaggy, and of course Scooby, to solve a variety of mysteries or haunts, such as, I don't know, there could be like an evil puppeteer, there could be somebody laundering money, there could be a warlock who is like a tennis coach or something. It's weird, but if you've seen the Scooby-Doo TV show, you kind of know what to expect. It's always a guy in a rubber mask. When isn't it a guy in a rubber mask? So playing through this game, you basically make the mansion and the surrounding area. There might be like a barn, a general store, creepy basement, stuff like that, and various events can happen to you. You might find a clue or an item like, here's a banana, it's full of potassium. That's such an odd card. Or you might find a treasure chest, and there might be like a Scooby snack, which basically allows you to re-roll a dice when something goes wrong. But the characters may have special abilities. Like Shaggy, he can re-roll up to 2 dice if he eats a Scooby snack. Or Velma, for example, has an ability on her card where she can never roll below a 3 if she rolls a brains thing, or Fred starts the game with like 2 items. So there is like a pick and choose kind of strategy, but inevitably betrayal happens and you become the bad guy and you have to fight against your former compatriots, which means, well, it's not like Fred got axe murdered or anything. No, you get locked in a closet, you run away, or something stupid happens. Either way, you're taken out of the game, and you play kind of a versus against each other with a timer track. And depending on which type of mystery it is, you can learn the mysteries cooperatively, or you can learn them separately, and there's like a time limit. You may have like, accomplish this in 6 turns, scare the shit out of the bystander in X amount of turns, that like sort of thing, and that's how you accomplish your objectives. And there's a winning objective, or there's like a winning speech where you look in the quote-unquote player's handbook that you can read this once you solve the mystery of, I don't know, the Ghost of Wimbledon or whatever the hell it is. Or if you're the evil bad guy, you can be like, Ma, I got away with it, you meddling kids, and playing this game, I did find it does take a little bit of a learning curve, much with like anything. We do live in this era of golden age of board games now, where games are so much more than Monopoly or Scrabble, and they have evolved. I'm not saying this game is Twilight Imperium or anything that complicated, but there is a degree of strategy involved, and because this game is meant to introduce younger players to the Betrayal style of games, and it is aimed at a younger audience, it does make the rules a little bit simpler. Like, damage is really spread out. Like your guys are virtual tanks, in my opinion. Yeah, you can still get knocked out or stunned, but as soon as the next round passes, you're back to full health. So you respawn, more or less. Did have fun with it, though. We did manage to get a couple of games in, and I like it. I really think this is a really good use of the IP, and I think Scooby-Doo's actually had a really good year in terms of use of its IP. I mean, we reviewed the movie from Warner Brothers a couple of weeks ago, and this is a fantastic way for you to get together with your friends if you can do so safely right now, because it ain't worth dying for a board game, but we were able to do so safely. I would love a chance to play this more. There are like 25 mysteries or something like that in this. I'm kind of hoping there'll be more expansions. I would love to see Scrappy-Doo get added into this, or if they expand it out to the Hanna-Barbera universe, which they kind of hinted at in the Scooby-Doo movie. I don't know, if you could somehow bring other characters from Hanna-Barbera over, because I know that they do have a wider quote-unquote cinematic universe. That's a dream, but hey, this game just came out a little while ago, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But yeah, overall, Scooby-Doo Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, in a nutshell, it'll take you 1 or 2 games to kind of get the feel for it. Once you and your group are comfortable, it's pretty fun to play the bad guy, because honestly, I think certain scenarios, I wouldn't say you're overpowered, but it's really easy to scare people or do damage to them because your stats are reasonably high to do damage. And you have like a variety of things that you can do, stuff like that make your character unique. So I do think that is kind of fun. I'd be very curious to try what the original games are like. I hear you turn into like an axe-wielding maniac. So that's fun, but that's not going to happen to Scooby-Doo. You're not going to run around with a chainsaw. Instead, you will be locked into a closet with a ham sandwich, or you will be running around trying to collect keys for aliens or something. But no, honestly, this is a lot of fun. It's a great use of the IP. And if you're a fan of Scooby-Doo, then I think Scooby-Doo Betrayal at Mystery Mansion is something you should probably be checking out and adding to your board game collection.
The only clue from this investigation I've got so far is that Motor Bjorklund and the Graveyard Ghoul are pretty much the same height.
That's reason enough to stay and eat more meatballs. You said it, Scoob. Let's meatball up.
Use on the mark.
All right, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net, your flagship of stupidity. I'm Mike the Birdman, he's Alex, producer. Well, let's talk about the things that happened around the Big Blue Marble this past week. And oh boy, we're going to start things off with a whopper of being tone deaf and stupid. Ubisoft is apologizing for Tom Clancy's game imagery.
Late-breaking story.
Yeah, late-breaking as in like last night. Game imagery that suggests Black Lives Matter is part of a terrorist plot. And I'm just going to read part of the story here.
And you play as part of an elite group to kill and thwart them.
Yeah, it's intense. So anyway, yesterday, Ubisoft announced it will remove raised fist imagery from the opening cinematic of the new mobile game, Tom Clancy's Elite Squad, following widespread criticism that the game's intro plays on right-wing conspiracies about the Black Lives Matter movement.
Which don't get confused. This is not just any raised fist. It's about 90 to 95% identical to the current logo being used by Black Lives Matter.
So, Elite Squad, which came out on iOS and Android earlier this week, begins with a narrative video laying out the game's premise, which paints protest movements as fronts for the organization called Umbra, a global terrorist network trying to take over the world. So, like Cobra. Protesters claim to promote an egalitarian utopia to gain popular support, while behind the scenes Umbra organizes deadly terrorist attacks to generate even more chaos and weaken governments, the narrator says at one point, as a series of black raised fists appear on screen. The raised fist has a long history, including in anti-racism movements, and has been one of the central symbols of the ongoing Black Lives Matter protests against police violence, most recently since the killing of George Floyd back in May. According to a description of the game's campaign, players can recruit elite soldiers from every corner of the world, including the criminal underworld, to put an end to Umbra's campaign of chaos. This opening leans into alt-right conspiracies around Black Lives Matter protests and other justice movements, which cast them as fronts for a shadow organization trying to destabilize world governments.
It's oddly close to what I've seen a lot of kooky people say online.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. So Ubisoft says imagery that appeared in the opening video sequence of Tom Clancy's Elite Squad featured a raised fist, which was insensitive and harmful in both its inclusion and how it was portrayed. Ubisoft wrote on Twitter yesterday. We have listened to and appreciate the players and the broader community who have pointed it out, and we apologize. The publisher says the imagery will be removed in the in-game's next update on September 1st on Android and as soon as possible on iOS. Ubisoft did not immediately respond to a request by Kotaku for comment about whether the rest of the opening will remain intact or why it was created for the game in the first place.
The whole game is about this, so changing that imagery isn't going to change the fact that that's the message of their game.
Well, yeah, and it's fucked up because Ubisoft a couple months ago donated $100,000 to the NAACP and Black Lives Matter.
That's one division of Ubi, but if you notice, their creative division has been poisoned lately.
Yeah, like this is like it's 2020. We are in the midst of a second civil rights movement. Who in the
you know what
fuck?
it is? It was a French studio that maybe doesn't really understand the ramifications of how it's going to affect people in the West.
Yes, like there's this really weird cultural disconnect, and I don't quite understand how it's this tone deaf.
It's one thing to capitalize and be like, hey, you know what, let's do a social commentary. They could do that and maybe make it neutral or make it go with what the public conscious is moving toward. But instead, their solution is, this movement for, very real and very dire reasons, it's like they're siding with the oppressors.
Yeah, it's not cool. And
by making up conspiracy theories that are aligned with what some of the crazy people are saying.
Yeah, and I see these conspiracy theories happen more and more every day, and people are starting to buy into it.
It's not just people are buying it. There's a gullibility. People want to belong to something. And
they're woke or something.
It's very easy to hate something because it makes you feel like you belong to another thing. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of lonely, ignorant people that want to believe this stuff. And if anybody were to say, video games incite violence, that's never been the case. Ubisoft's pushing it pretty far.
Yeah,
it's not the right
cool.
time. It's not the time for this game and message to come out. And it's coming out on mobile. What is mobile targeting? Really, like Gen Z.
Yeah.
Mobile is people under the age of 20. Like, I don't know anybody in their 30s that plays mobile games on their phone as their primary method of play.
Yeah, like this is just...
So,
Jesus Christ.
So what you're doing is you got kids that are dumb.
Impressionable, we'll say.
I'll say dumb.
Okay.
Because kids that are rational and intelligent, they're going to inquire, they'll not take it at face value.
Yeah.
But you got dumb, impressionable kids, and they're going to go, "Hey, that's right. This has got to be somewhat truth to it because Ubisoft bases their stuff on fact and what's happening in the world. So this must be real. So maybe it's okay for me to grab a gun and shoot somebody."
Yeah.
And this is from somebody like, I'm a very liberal person myself. I'm the first person to say video games don't incite violence. This game could.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think
it's a contributing factor in the States right now.
It's pushing the wrong narrative.
If you've got kids that are already, and you've seen what's been happening in the news lately.
Yeah.
You've got, we're not going to go into details about everything that's happening, but you've seen what the headlines are lately with underage kids and guns.
Yeah.
And it's just another reinforcing factor in some of these kids' minds.
Fair point.
They would likely do it anyway, but if this pushes them over the edge, it's also kind of disgusting that they're trying to capitalize on the civil unrest to make a profit.
Yeah. So, Ubisoft, do better, for fuck's sakes. Moving on to...
Now, sorry, this might already be doing better because it would have been a result of the creative team that was fired in the last... You know how they shuffled up everybody?
Yeah.
Remember, it was one central group of people that have been doing creative for like a decade or more there. Mm-hmm. So this would have been in development for quite some time. But you would have thought they would have gone, maybe not the right time to release it.
You know what? At least it's a mobile game and not a full AAA title.
Sorry, at least it's a game that very few people are actually going to play.
Yeah, no one gives a shit.
No one gives a shit except the fact that it's so tone deaf.
Yeah. So this next story actually kind of ties into the review I just did, and American animation icon Joe Ruby, the co-creator of the classic cartoon series Scooby-Doo, has passed away at the age of 87. So according to Variety, Ruby died at his home in Westlake Village, California, of natural causes. Ruby was 87. In addition to working with his production partner Ken Spears to create Scooby-Doo, the pair also developed two other classic Hanna-Barbera cartoons in both Dino Mutt, the Dog Wonder, and Jabberjaw. Ruby's extensive career also included work on the original Space Ghost TV series, the Herculoids, Electro Woman, Dinah Girl, Captain Caveman, and the Teen Angels, and even some live-action shows like the sitcom Punky Brewster.
Now, Jabberjaw, wasn't that the show that gave Frank Welker his first job?
I'm not totally
I'm pretty sure he's Jabberjaw, and I think that was his first role. And Ruby Spears, aren't they also the company that was behind all the claymation, or was that Rankin Bass?
That was Rankin Bass.
Okay, I usually get those two confused, but they were classics of animation from the 60s and 70s, like the heyday of when TV animation became big.
Yeah, and Ruby Spears animation has a very distinct look to it. Like
Ruby Spears, are they the ones that did Thundercats?
No, that's totally different.
Okay, I'm wrong.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the old guard is gone. Like, you're seeing just so many different people come out now.
I thought he had passed a long time ago. The only one left of that, the old guard, but sort of new guard, like not the original old guys are gone. The ones from the 20s and 30s. But I guess, would it be Don Bluth? Is he like the only one left?
I think so.
And he's not retired because he's still trying to get Kickstarter projects done.
Yeah.
But like, I'm pretty sure that most of the others are gone.
Mm-hmm. Together with Spears, the pair brought a new class of cartoons to Hanna-Barbera Productions, having been a part of the team since the late 1950s. He says, I did some magazine cartooning years before, but never pursued working as a writer much, Ruby said in an interview with Scooby-Doo fan site Scooby Addicts. It was just a freak opportunity that came up with at Hanna-Barbera in 1959. They desperately needed people to write short openings and closings and 30-second bridges for Huck Hound and the Yogi Bear shows, and both Ken and I started writing on the side while we worked our regular jobs at the editorial department. Some of Ruby's other works that fans might know and love was the short-lived Planet of the Apes TV series, and even the hugely popular 1980s version of Alvin and the Chipmunks, which is my favorite. He also had a hand in bringing together several live-action figures and franchises into the medium of animation, including Mr. T, Police Academy, the animated series, and even the cartoon version of Rambo. Far and away,
the Chuck Norris one, they did that too.
Yep, the Chuck Norris and the Karate Commandos. Far and away, though, his most popular work was the Scooby-Doo franchise, which they created in 1969. Spears and Ruby wrote the first 5 episodes of the series together and had a hand in crafting the rest of the original run. The pair returned to the franchise in both 1976 for the Scooby-Doo show and 1980 for Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. We kicked around a lot of names and just decided which ones seemed to fit their personalities best, Ruby said in the same interview. There wasn't a story behind Shaggy, only that Shaggy came first, and then he came up with his formal name Norville. Ruby received a special thanks in the credits of this year's CG animated Scoob, along with Spears, a film that features not only the characters they co-created from Scooby-Doo, but also Blue Falcon and Dino Mutt and Captain Caveman. So that's something, man, because it's weird. I used to have a flaming hatred. I mean, I literally fucking hated Scooby-Doo. But in the last couple of years, I've really come around.
I don't hate it. I hate Scrappy, but we know one person that loves it. You have bad taste.
It's just, I don't know. There's something very innocent about it. Like, I started watching those Scooby-Doo and, like, the WWE crossovers, which are goofy and fun. Some are better than others.
I mean, it was
John Cena fights a bear.
The whole thing was made as a copycat of the Monkees, which was made as a copycat of the Beatles' Help movie, right? Like that whole style.
Yeah,
it originated in the Beatles' Help theatrical feature, and like this, it was kind of. If you look at it, even that was copied so many other times with like every copycat show imaginable. Had to copy the Scooby formula in the 70s.
Yeah, like I remember Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, Josie and the Pussycats to a lesser extent.
But seriously, all the way into the 80s, it was here's a group of teenagers and one wacky thing like a robot or
a dog or something,
and they solve mysteries.
But it endured for so many years. He's had multiple theatrical movies.
Think like they made that, and then Filmation copied them like 100,000 times with different shows with that idea.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's weird. I mean, I've started to like Scooby-Doo. I know there's a Scooby-Doo complete animated series available on DVD or Blu-ray. I'd almost consider picking it up, which is weird because like I said, I used to fucking hate this thing. Now I really like it.
Dude,
especially
they crossed over in Supernatural.
Yeah, and that was remarkably well done.
So, what was the
Jinkies, we could die here.
Yeah, it was who was it? The one guy, because I'm not a big fan of of Supernatural. I've only seen some episodes, but the one he was trying to get with the one. What's her name?
Sam. Sam was trying to get with Daphne,
and he's like, "Oh, I should have known Velma was good to go." like it was so silly and over the top, but it was actually really well done.
Yeah, like if you're gonna watch anything for Scooby-Doo, watch that episode. So our next story, I don't know how I feel about this. So Netflix has ordered a Resident Evil TV series from the Supernatural executive producers. It seems that Netflix has finally found a showrunner to bring the Resident Evil series to fruition. Deadline brings word that the popular streaming service has ordered a TV adaptation of Capcom's survival horror game. Andrew Dabb, who has executive produced CW Supernatural, will work on an 8-episode season together with Constantine Film.
Isn't this the Muppet Babies one?
I don't know.
It's like zombie babies because it's all about children. Or
it's about Wesker kids or something.
Yeah. Sorry, it's the Flintstone kids. That's what it is.
The German studio best known for the Resident Evil movies. Resident Evil is my favorite game of all time, said Dabb in a statement. I'm incredibly excited to tell a new chapter in this amazing story and bring the first ever Resident Evil series to Netflix members around the world. For every type of Resident Evil fan, including those joining us for the first time, the series will be complete with lots of old friends, some things, bloodthirsty, insane things people have never seen before.
Just don't let Anderson touch it.
No. According to reports, the series will develop in 2 timelines featuring the same protagonist. The first one will follow a couple of 14-year-old sisters who've just moved to New Raccoon City. Soon enough, Jade and Billy Wesker will discover there's more in the city than meets the eye. Even their father's concealing some dangerous secrets.
I'm getting really bad Riverdale vibes from this.
Even their father is concealing some dangerous secrets. In the second timeline, Jade is in her 30s, in a future where the T-virus has infected plenty of people and animals, and she has to do what it takes to survive while the ghosts of the past are still haunting her. Presumably, Albert Wesker will be the primary villain of the first game and later installments in the film series is their father. Netflix has yet to announce a debut date for the Resident Evil series.
Watch it tank.
I don't know. It's got a really good IP to it.
People are done with zombies. They've been playing it to death. Walking Dead should have ended 10 years ago.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
It was good.
This.
It got boring in season 3, and then it never got better.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say after Glenn died, when he was killed by Negan.
Isn't that like 6 years ago now, or 4 or 5 years ago?
Around 2014, 15.
Wasn't
That's about when I tuned out?
No. It was right before the election in the States, because Dave Chappelle made fun of it on his SNL episode.
Okay.
Where he also made fun of the election where Trump won. So that's how I know.
But yeah, like I tuned out then. Fear the Walking Dead, I don't know what season they're in. There's a new Walking Dead that I want to check out, but anyway, back to this.
I'm saying there's too many zombie shows.
I think Resident Evil is different because they're zombies, but they're bioweapons, and you can do more like lickers and tyrants and Cerberuses and all the weird shit that Umbrella cooks up. I don't like the idea that it's going to be Wesker kids.
It's going to be like the Sabrina or the Riverdale. Riverdale had a fantastic first season and then devolved into bullshit, including a supervillain trying to escape on a rocket, Evel Knievel style.
Yeah, like
from the cult he made, a death cult.
I mean,
my brother continued to watch, and he goes, "Alex, you got to watch this shit." And I went, "Why?" I said, "The show got crappy after he joined the mob." And then he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "But look at this." And I watched it, and he goes, "That's how he was going to escape, holding onto a rocket like he was in the Jackass movie." And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "I don't know. It's like all the adults stopped watching the show, so they just stopped caring about the script.
They just kept." It's almost like they're like, hey, they just gave us money this week. Let's do something stupid.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that they're trying to do a Riverdale type thing with it.
See, what I want from a Resident Evil series is if you told me, maybe not retell the first game, but if you told me it would follow the STARS Alpha and Bravo teams just before the Mansion incident or an investigative... This is my pitch. Happens after the Mansion incident, so after the first game back in 1998 and before Resident Evil 2. So that gives you 8 weeks to tell a story, and it leads
Okay.
up to the viral outbreak under Raccoon City, where the rats infect everybody.
I'll raise this to you instead. It's 8 episodes, right?
Yes.
First episode is a 1-hour special where you get to see the history of the characters.
Okay.
And they get called. They do like a regular mission, whatever.
Would you bring characters from the game or create new ones?
Game.
Okay.
And
So Jill, Chris, Rebecca.
the first episode, which instead of being 45 minutes long, is 1 hour and 10. Not
Okay.
quite movie length, but enough to do establishing. Get all the character creation out of the way.
Yeah.
And it ends with them running into the mansion.
Okay.
You then spend the next 3 episodes, 4 episodes, 4 or 5, the meat of it,
Doing the
telling
game?
the story of the first game.
Okay.
And the last 2 episodes are what happens in between, and the cliffhanger for season 2 is the beginning of the second game.
That wouldn't be terrible.
It wouldn't be stretching the plot too much, and it would give them plenty of time where a couple of the episodes can be focused on solving the puzzles and the weird crap that happens, and it can be that slower moving thing where you start to get more, lore and story, and make it atmospheric. Don't make it an action show, which I feel they're going to do. Do not make it an action show. Make it a full-on suspense thriller.
Because one of the things about Resident Evil, which it was very much in the early games, you can't, or you really shouldn't kill everything because ammo is so limited. If you told me Jill, Chris, and Barry have to make it through with 2 magazines, good luck. And there's like 100 zombies, good luck. And there's a tyrant, that'd be okay. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for it. We'll wait and see. It is Netflix, so I'm willing to trust it. But we'll see if my faith is indeed rewarded. This next thing I'm a little more excited for. The Stand, which is the Stephen King novel and was adapted back in the 90s as a TV miniseries, is coming this holiday season as if deadly viruses weren't already enough on your mind. So this holiday season, if you're lucky enough to find yourself celebrating with your family, why not sit back, relax, and watch a story about a deadly virus that wipes out humanity? And no, we're not talking about the news. CBS All Access will debut its highly anticipated adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand on December 17th, just in time for Christmas.
It's going to be bad.
After that,
I can tell you why, sorry, right now, because
Josh Boone.
it's the same director as New Mutants.
After that, 8 more episodes, 9 total, will premiere weekly on Thursdays. Josh Boone, New Mutants, directed the premiere and the finale of the series, which will feature a new coda written by King. The star shows Alexander Skarsgård as Randall Flagg, Whoopi Goldberg as Mother Abigail, leading a massive ensemble that will include James Marsden, Odessa Young, Amber Heard, Owen Teague, Henry Zaga, Nat Wolff, Eon Bailey, John Apito, I guess, Heather Graham, Heather McNamara, Fiona Dorff, Natalie Martinez, Hamish Linklater, Daniel Sujata, and Greg Kinnear, among others. Of course, unlike the COVID-19 pandemic, the virus of the Stand wipes out almost 99% of the population, as opposed to the other way around. But nevertheless, the timing of this release during a global pandemic after a long and well-documented road to the big screen feels more than a little creepy. Typical Stephen King stuff. During the 2 years we spent making The Stand, we all felt the responsibility of adapting what may be the most beloved work of one of the world's most beloved storytellers, but none of us could have imagined that Stephen King's 40-year-old masterpiece about a global pandemic would come to be so eerily relevant. Showrunner Benjamin Cavill said in a statement shared by Variety. We're honored to tell this sprawling, epic story, including a new coda that Stephen King has wanted to add for decades. We're so proud of this show and its attempt to find meaning and hope in the most uncertain times. We can't wait to share it with the world. Maybe not a good time, guys.
Also, terrible director.
But he only did 2 episodes. A big deal.
Yeah, the first and the last.
I don't know. I'm willing to see.
He can't light or shoot a horror production to save his life. Unless he gets a different director of photography who takes over for him.
I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm willing to give it a shot because I love The Stand.
Yeah, I'll give it a go, but maybe just why didn't you do like Golden Years instead or something?
I don't know. I think The Stand is the one Stephen King movie that should be adapted. The fact that it's 9 episodes as a TV series, I am looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it, obviously, but I feel like I would almost want like a high-budget Langoliers.
I don't know what I'd want
Not
to
the
adapt.
Bronson Pinchot bullshit Pac-Man one.
Yeah.
Scared me as a kid, but like think about the idea of how they could have expanded that into a miniseries instead of like the 1.5 hour TV movie.
Yeah.
You gave it 4 hours to tell the story of being stranded back in time in the in-between. And instead of having Pac-Man looking things eating it up, just have space being slowly fading away. Mm-hmm. And you being like closed in like a bubble.
So very Back to the Future-esque.
Yeah.
So this next story, I don't think bodes well for this game, but we'll talk about it. Microsoft and 343 Industries have confirmed that Joseph Staten will be returning home to Halo for a little bit. The news was revealed on Halo Waypoint, further clarifying that Staten will officially be joining as project lead for Halo Infinite's campaign after launch Tell Me this week. In addition to Staten, Pierre Heinz, the head of publishing team for Halo the Master Chief Collection, will be joining the Halo Infinite team as a project lead for its free-to-play multiplayer experience. Heinz and his team have demonstrated an amazing ability to deliver new content, an excellent fighting program, and substantial updates across Master Chief Collection over the past year. The original story I guess that's pretty much about it. This guy, Staten, began his career at Bungie back in 1998 as a product manager for Myth 2 Soulblighter, was also the writer and director of the cinematics for Halo Combat Evolved 1 and 2, the writer for Halo 3 and Reach, and he was also the creative consultant for Halo Wars, and he was the creative director for Halo 3 ODST.
Basically, right before they split, he was. But think about this. That's not a creative role he's in. That is
he's leading the ship.
That's a production manager, a product manager, a project manager. His job is now make sure they finish the game. It's not he's going to be there to tell them you got to slash this.
Yeah.
You got to focus on this. He's not making creative decisions other than what can we cut to make it come out on time.
Yeah, like one of the rumors I was watching Inside Gaming, which was like, Bruce Green and like his team, or was it Bruce Green? Brian Garr, sorry. Got the
Grandpa Garr.
Yeah, Grandpa Garr, and he was
because he's like 20 years older than the rest of the people on the show.
So him and like his team, like him and Connor were talking, and I think they said they'd heard rumors that the Xbox One's version may be getting scrapped.
Oh, you wait until after shareholder meetings are done for the quarter and they can actually officially announce it. It's too much bad press for them to announce it now. It's all going to depend on how they word their releases. They said, we're supporting it. You can't support that game for 10 years on the current platform. They said any game that came out after, was it a year window or something, was going to be exclusive. If they launch it now, they can't just say, we're cutting service for this when the game is a live service game that's going to last 10 years, they're saying. In 10 years, the Xbox One will be unplayable, and I guess their hope is, you'll switch over. But no, there will be people that demand service on it because by purchasing the game, you said you were supporting it for 10 years. So they've put themselves in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, I mean, Halo Infinite's things are coming out that there's a lot of trouble. Like, even the cinematics were revealed they were outsourced to a different company, and that's why things look different.
It might look better in the first trailer than the in-game engine. Like, the system, the original like VCR version of the Xbox, they call it, when it came out, it was actually underpowered when compared to similar hardware. What that means is generally when a system comes out, like the newer systems, it's going to cost you $1,200 to $1,300 to build a computer that could do roughly what the current gen systems are. You could buy a $400 computer or build one that did what a $500 Xbox One did. It was the first time where I saw it and I was like, that's underpowered for what my own home computer was. The PS4 had the advantage of using faster RAM than what you could buy at home. Because they use GDDR5 for all of the RAM. But it is an underpowered system from 7 years ago, and they think they're going to try to run it on there. And the rumors have been that they can't even get 30 frames per second at 720p working.
Oh dear.
Oof.
Yeah. So keep an eye for Halo Infinite. Hopefully they'll get their shit figured out. I hope everybody can play together.
Yeah,
I hope this guy brings what's needed to the team.
What they're going to have to do is cancel the game for the old system, because you can't spread it that far and wide unless they can launch xCloud on the Xbox One to make it live a little longer. But why would you make a game work on 4 generations of your hardware? The
Money.
One, the S, the X, the Series X, and the potentially other one that's 5, plus eventually PC. So you're looking at 6 different platforms?
Fucking Siri.
This is what happens when you let robots listen to you.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm sure we'll find out more shortly.
I feel like those of us that are actually going to buy the Xbox Series X are going to suffer if they have to make it work on the older systems.
Yeah. So this next story came as a complete and utter surprise to me. So courtesy of comingsoon.net, the X-Files Albuquerque. X-Files animated comedy spin-off in development at Fox. According to TV Line...
Fox?
Yeah. Because Fox still develops this, so...
So that means that... So wait, Disney didn't get the rights to the X-Files?
I guess.
Okay.
Continuing on...
wait, they did. They own Fox. It's Fox News that's different.
Yes. TV Line is reporting Fox is currently developing an animated comedy spin-off of The X-Files titled The X-Files Albuquerque, with series creator Chris Carter executive producing. The potential series will center on an office full of misfit agents who investigate X-Files cases too wacky, ridiculous, or downright dopey for Mulder and Scully to bother with, essentially acting as the X-Files B-team. The project has received a script and presentation from the network. The pilot is being written by Rocky Russo and Jeremy Senko, Paradise PD, who will serve as executive producers along with Carter, who is not writing or showrunning, and former X-Files writer Gabe Rotter. The X-Files, starring David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, ran for 9 seasons on Fox between 1993 and 2002. The live-action sci-fi mystery series spawned 2 movies: The X-Files Fight the Future back in 1998, and X-Files I Want to Believe in 2008, before the Golden Globe and Emmy-winning series returned in 2016 for 2 seasons, which were fucking terrible.
I liked 3 episodes out of the 2 seasons.
Yeah, I didn't like any of them, especially just the ending. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me.
No, I said 3 individual episodes
of the series
of the reboot.
Oh, the reboot. Yeah, I didn't like any of them. I just sat there seething in anger.
The Ghost in the Machine one was pretty good. That was the one with what's his name? How his consciousness was put into an AI program. Mm-hmm. That was a fun way of actually having the lone gunman back in it.
I was like,
what was the one where the guy? The one really good episode, and it is one. It felt like it was right in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Was the one with the guy that said he needed help because he kept turning into a demon. Mm-hmm. But it reveals that he was always a demon, and he was actually turning into a human. And every time he did, he'd lose his memories.
I think I remember that.
And he would turn into a human and become a television salesman or a phone salesman or something.
Yeah. It was something really mundane.
That felt like a mid-90s one-off episode.
So I guess we'll wait and see what happens. I mean, we are seeing animation things come out.
We already have that show. It's called Men in Black.
I would like to see that show come back.
Actually, what was it on Fox a few years back? Ghosted. That was the live action show. That's what it was. It was an underground team of, like the X-Files, investigating paranormal in the wacky, crazy shit that the bigger agents didn't deal with. Mm-hmm. We had that show on Fox, and they canceled it.
But it didn't last very long.
So I don't know.
I know it had the black guy from Hot Tub Time Machine, and I can't remember who else.
I'm drawing a blank. Oh, it was Parks and Rec. The dude from Parks and Rec and plays the brother, the asshole brother on Step Brothers.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank.
John C. Reilly?
No, the one that played the brother.
Oh.
Yes, I'm drawing a blank. People will correct us later. But yeah, it was good. and it was, canceled because anything good on Fox gets canceled.
That seems to be just the way it's always gone.
Anything good on Fox and anything good on Sci-Fi.
Yep, you can count its death clock, basically. So this next story, CNN is bringing us this story, and it's not a weird one for a change. Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, which if you're still listening, you have 1 day to download this game free on PlayStation Plus. Fucking do it. Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout has taken the gaming world by storm. The game from indie publisher Devolver Digital has now sold more than 7 million copies on PC's game store Steam and an undisclosed number on PlayStation, putting it well on its way to outsell some of the most popular video games on the market over a similar 1-month launch period.
They can't count PlayStation because it's being given away for free.
Some people will still buy it.
Well, no, I was going to say, once the free month is up, they'll release the paid numbers, and then they can probably release how many times it was downloaded as well.
So Fall Guys might be the most whimsical battle royale there is. You play as a jelly bean-like creature trying to make your way through mazes, jumping challenges, and other game show-like activities to become the best out of 60 players. It was released on August 4th and is available on PS4 and Windows for $20. It has hit a peak of 439,000 players at a single time. Now, side story of this, my wife, Blair, decided to play this game yesterday. She's giving me the finger. She's like, Michael, can I play? Sure, you like to play games. So Blair's playing this, and it was a disaster about as much as you can imagine. She's mooning me now!
Good Lord.
For Christ's sakes.
She is the queen of Katamari.
She is. But it's weird. She's like, Michael, I'm going the wrong way. But anyway.
Well, but again, her Katamari skills put any of us to shame.
Oh, yeah. I can't touch her at Katamari. So anyway, but yeah, it's really simple. It's a lot of fun. So to put this in perspective, Fortnite had 12.3 million players log on for Travis Scott's in-game concert, it tweeted in April. Although Fortnite is on virtually every platform, including Xbox, PS4, Nintendo Switch, Mac OS, and PC, and it throws splashy events that attracts fans of music and cinema. In May 2018, it set a new record at the time by racking up $318 million in sales in a single month. Although Sony hasn't disclosed how many copies of the game have sold on console, PlayStation UK's official Twitter confirmed that Fall Guys is the most downloaded game of all time worldwide on the PlayStation Plus subscription service. Fall Guys does offer in-game purchases, such as different outfits for your jelly bean, but it does not disclose how much revenue it's generated from those sales.
Also, this is one of the few times where a brand new release day one was a download title for free.
Yeah, that surprised the shit out of me.
Didn't they say it was part of their 25 years of PlayStation? That was one of the reasons they were putting it out.
That I wasn't sure of.
Because they, remember how a few months back they stopped giving away PS3 titles? Mm-hmm. And they said they were going to 2 titles per month. And I do remember it had to do with, it was like 25 years since the announcement of the PlayStation. Mm-hmm. And that's a good title because people for the last, couple of years have been saying the PlayStation Plus titles have been kind of crappy or old.
Yeah.
Like they weren't relevant.
They've been really good this year.
This was hyper relevant.
Yeah. So the game is set to be one of the industry's most lucrative of the year. But it didn't look that way at first. Its developers feared the game would not attract enough players. When you launch a mass multiplayer game, one of the things you don't know is how many people are going to show up. And you can't start a game because you need at least 60 people, said Jeff Tanton, creative director at Metatonic Games, the studio behind Fall Guys. It seems ridiculous now when you look at the numbers we got. The game requires a total of 60 people to start a round, so Metatonic Games developers kept Fall Guys simple, releasing a single game mode and little other content. That approach has worked wonders for the game's popularity. Queue times for the game tend to be short. In my experience, less than 10 seconds. Joe Walsh, game designer at Metatonic, told CNN Business in an early August interview, "We decided it was better to have a much more focused, more polished experience than spread ourselves too thin and have something that starts to fall apart. I think the numbers you're seeing are a testament to that." The game has attracted interest from people who don't typically play third-person shooters and other competitive multiplayer games. There's a whole bunch of people who don't have much interest in games but seem to know about and want to play Fall Guys. And I think that's where a lot of the numbers are coming from, said Tanton. There are no guns in Fall Guys, the better to help the game stand out from the competition. On Thursday's Fall Guys Season 2 will be unveiled, which we saw, which will be medieval themed from Gamescom, which will expand the game's content and help determine the game if the game can hold on to its avid fan base. The fact that this game is 60 players, queue times are short, you can stream the hell out of this, and people are really popular with it. I mean, you can't build an entire YouTube channel out of it, but Alex, for you, for example, if you want to spend the entire game being an asshole and throwing people off the side,
what is that supposed to mean?
Okay, that's what I did when I played it. I just sat near the edge.
You looked straight at me in the eyes, and he said, for you, Alex, if you want to be an asshole.
It's true. You're a jerk.
I'm a friendly jerk.
You are, but now you can fuck people off the edge and fuck them over as a horse.
And I did, I was reminded that it was a download because I forgot to get it.
Yep.
So I did redeem it last night. So
it's fun, man.
I've set it to download, so I'll give it a go. Everybody had been talking about it. You know what? Honestly, even when I was getting press correspondence with, people when I was getting, hey, here's your game review code. Check it out. They'd say, we've been playing they've been playing the game, and they're not even from the same, they're not like Sony representatives, or from that company. We're talking like big press companies randomly sending me stuff, things. Here, by the way, Alex, what have you been playing? Here's what we've been playing. This is super fun. And I'm like, I heard it from like 4 different people. Yeah,
I remember when this was when they were giving out beta codes for this to build hype, and then one of my press people that I follow online is like, I don't need to give you a press code. Why? Because it's free on PlayStation tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is a market genius.
Yeah. Well, and especially when, PR people, they stay on point. They're talking about whatever game they're promoting. But when they randomly are like, here's the game, check it out. And by the way, I don't know if I've got you on PlayStation, but if I do, I'll play Fall Guys with you. And I'm like, that's weird. Usually people don't do that unless they're promoting the game themselves.
Yeah.
But that's how much it's caught on.
I mean, I was impressed. So, guys, play Fall Guys. It's a lot of fun. You got a day to download it before it becomes $20. Even if you don't, it's on Steam for $20. Who cares?
Exactly.
So, this last story comes courtesy of Superhero Hype, and Alex can speak to this. Reviewers are turning down New Mutants over safety issues. The coronavirus isn't going anywhere, but major theater chains remain committed to reopening their doors last Friday, belatedly launching the summer blockbuster season with 20th Century Studios' The New Mutants. Normally, this is when a time when early reviews of the film would start showing up online, but since these are not normal times, critics aren't rushing to attend advanced screenings. In fact, there aren't any. Since Disney didn't offer any special screenings or review links, as it has with Disney Plus releases, the only way to get a glimpse of The New Mutants in theaters, IndieWire shared that it is joining other outlets like the AV Club, the Boston Globe, and RogerEbert.com in turning down the chance to review the movie this week. And there are no public screenings of The New Mutants in markets like New York and Los Angeles, where theaters are still closed. The release comes at a time where social distancing is still encouraged to prevent the spread of COVID-19, which has killed nearly 180,000 Americans since February.
If you look at the critics' consensus on Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes, the vast majority of reviews are from Canada because we have a wide release here, and most of our theaters in Ontario and Alberta, I think parts of BC, have been open 5-6 weeks already. So, where the States is barely reopening, people aren't rushing out. And when we reopened our theaters here, they didn't put new movies in for the first 3 weeks just to see how it would go. So, and from seeing it myself, I know why they weren't giving out press copies.
So the story continues, and it says the AV Club's A.A. Dodd even published an essay last week explaining the website's decision. His post referred to an interview with 2 scientific experts the AV Club published last week. Both experts agreed that going to the movies right now just isn't worth the risk to anyone's health. Even a few filmmakers like Doctor Strange's director Scott Derrickson are advising against visiting theaters anytime soon. And he says, I quote, "Don't go to see Tenet or any other movie in a theater. There, I said it." Regardless, critics overseas, where the virus is much more under control, are having better luck. Reviewers in other countries have recently begun sharing their thoughts on Christopher Nolan's Tenet that did screen in advance overseas, and notices have mostly been positive. And then the story goes on.
And remember, overseas also counts as Canada.
Yeah.
Because we've had we are following the trends of Europe generally in how control is.
Well, you were telling me your experience at the smaller theater.
Yeah,
there were proper ushers.
The second largest chain in Canada. It was surprising. Like, you go in, they meet you at the door. They say they give you a squirt of the hand sanitizer. They say, "Have you paid for your ticket already? Are you getting concessions?" Okay. They're not even scanning, or taking a physical ticket from you. They look at it and they mark down on a clipboard that you've arrived and the seat you arrived for that was reserved, and you just go straight in. You have to wear a mask the second you walk in the door. You sit down. You take your mask off once they said, please wait till everybody's seated. So once the movie starts, basically, and then you can eat and drink, do whatever you need to do. And when you leave, they're like spraying a mist over the top of the chairs that have a biodegradable antibacterial stuff. The theater I was at had 3 sanitary people. Their entire job was to keep all the surfaces clean all day, and the bathrooms. And they shut down like all drinking fountains and everything. Really well, but it still felt good. It didn't feel like it was weird or oppressive or anything. And then you go to the largest chain, and where they say they're following the same thing, and they let in more people than what I counted how many seats were supposed to be sold, and there were 6 more people than there should have been. And it's because I inquired, and I was told, well, they came with family, and I'm like, then they can go to another showing, or like really. And they also are charging more money now than they were before the pandemic.
How much more?
$2 more for a ticket.
Yeah.
So it's more money. So, and again, that might be a location by location basis. That being said, if I hadn't gone to the first theater, which was the second biggest chain, I would have been impressed with how the largest chain was handling it. It's just their competition was handling it even better.
Yeah.
So I would say it's safe here, but that's simply because we've had so little cases in the last month and a half.
Yeah.
In the States, I would not be going to theaters until
next year.
Depending on, I might not go till like January if I was in the States, and that might change.
And that's
too.
During second wave.
Yeah, like we're gonna see here. Like I saw these movies this weekend because I had vouchers, but in 2 months I might not be going to movies. You don't know.
I'm not. I've said this before on the show. I might consider Black Widow, but that will vastly depend.
And that's
on
November.
numbers.
You'll know by then what happens here. If our numbers stay exactly the same, you should be fine by November. If you're somebody and again, it's a personal preference.
Yeah, like for me, I've got a compromised immune system. So does Blair.
I would not say you must go, or I'd be like,
Ghostbusters would be the Ghostbusters was my benchmark, and that was March. But the way things are going, it ain't going to be under control by March.
If we don't have a second wave in Canada, I suspect the first movie to make decent money. And here's the thing: it's going to be months. They said till they bring back pull back on how many people can go. So even if we don't get a second wave in Canada, we're at like 15 to 20 person capacity per screen, probably till next year.
See, here's the thing I don't get, and then this will be like a very brief talk. Theaters and the movie studios need to make up their fucking minds, because they're not going to make their money back at 15 person a screening.
Yeah.
Put it out on VOD where millions can access it.
I think the reason is the second it goes VOD, anybody that's tech savvy will pirate it, and that's what they're afraid of.
And there's all these things with contracts where it says this must have a theatrical release. So that needs to change.
So you know how you save that? Is you have the movie theaters partner with the production
VOD
companies.
Providers?
Yeah, like Cineplex has their own here.
Yep.
But you make a deal. You want to make it cheap? Don't charge $20 or $30. You want a VOD, a one-time screening? You make it $5.
I'd do it. I'd pay it.
And $5 better give you 4K. If not, people will just wait till it's available.
I mean, the one movie I am paying for this weekend because it's cheap. It's $20. Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Yeah, and that was like it had an early 2-day early release in theaters here.
Yeah,
and then it's VOD.
Now.
I think the States might be a different date than us. Like
I think it's universal because I saw people on YouTube watching.
Yeah,
it
was the 1st or the 28th, and it depended on the market apparently.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think it's a simultaneous release because I know it wasn't because I saw it in theaters before the VOD came out. So like, and that's because that's a small company. It's like VVS is doing it in Canada. In the States, it's Orion Pictures through MGM. So it's different, but. I mean, I think Wonder Woman in October will be the test to see if they can make money because I don't think Tenet's going to make more than $10 million in like
they'd be lucky.
Like in Canada, on the best of weekends, you'll get $10 million when at full capacity. They're going to get they might get $1 million in Canada.
Yeah.
And then worldwide, they might get another couple 100,000. Like
it's going to be really low.
It's going to make its money on home video in some format or another, or they're going to have to take a loss. They're going to have to look at whatever they get in theaters for the next 6 months to a year as being it. I fully predict that entire chains will shut down, and theaters will probably become more of a boutique thing where it's independently run for just the super fans.
Yeah, like ultimately, I don't miss the theater experience.
Certain things like Tenet was good on the IMAX screen,
but. I don't know. For me, I'd go to see a Marvel movie or I'd go to see Ghostbusters. I've got Tenet I want to see, but I'm not risking my health over it.
And I would rather go, if I'm going to go to theaters, I'd rather go to an independent cinema where I know they're going to take it very serious.
Yeah.
And very serious is not having teenagers in charge of sanitation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just not. Whereas you go to an independent cinema, it's one thing. And how the second largest chain here has found what they're doing to combat it is they're now serving beer and liquor at every location where they weren't before. They got their license right before the pandemic hit, so now they're like, sit down and we'll get you drunk. And one thing I noticed as far as the theater experience in Canada, the one chain, the smaller, bigger chain, but not like the biggest chain, they have their entire menu. The largest chain in Canada
has like 5-6 items.
Popcorn, poutine, 30 or so odd other items are all gone. The board is completely empty. You cannot order any extra food. They're limiting their supply for what I guess the most popular items.
I'm surprised they wouldn't do pizza because they can just order that from Pizza.
No, because it's open air.
Oh,
they got to handle it and all this. With the poutine, you have gloves on. You dump it in. You hot oil. You dump it out. It's fresh. They don't want anything that can sit. And even the popcorn shelves.
Yeah,
they're popping like half capacity. And they don't do the thing where they used to do. Remember, they used to fill the bags and put them in a container to hold on to where it goes stale. They're popping fresh batches as people come in.
Oh, wow.
Which, I mean, is good for the consumer because it costs them nothing.
Yeah.
And they raise prices. $6 for a small popcorn, $6.50 for a medium, $7 for a large. Oh, and big signs saying no refills during pandemic.
Man, I remember when you used to be able to get refills at the theater. Guess not.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah. So, and also, they had to put a sign up that you can bring your own bottled water. And usually these places, they would have signs saying no water, because they had to shut down the water fountains.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an interesting experience. Everybody, when I went, was like obeying the rules. One guy tried to come in without a mask and argue, and they said, you can just not come back. And they wouldn't let him in.
Good.
So, and that was at the one location. The other location was offering free masks. And if you refused it, they asked you to leave as well. Good.
Be smart. Wear a mask. Don't be an asshole. So anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. This review will be coming up from Alex, and,
Spiritfarer.
So, it's going to be on Stadia. So take a listen, because you're stuck at home. What else are you going to do?
I have been spending the last few nights playing Spiritfarer. A code was provided to me for the Stadia platform, as I thought, okay, well, it's available on the Switch as well, but it also seemed like a game that would probably work quite well on Stadia. So when I was given the option to try it, I said, let's try out the Stadia copy just to see how it performs. And it is a very chill and even-paced game that it works quite well. There's literally zero lag. I mean, I even tried to hamper myself by playing on a PC that was using Wi-Fi. I tried limiting the actual display to 720p, then 1080. It didn't matter what I set it to. It was buttery smooth and looked like I was playing locally. It does have an art style that lends itself quite well to the streaming platform that they're using, with little to no. I didn't see any artifacting, which is pretty rare because usually you still see something or there's some screen tearing or something going on, but it worked smooth, buttery smooth, like nothing. So, if somebody were to walk in, they'd go, "Oh, you're playing that on PC or whatever." No, it was streamed completely. Anyway. Audio-wise, it is an indie title, so it feels it's got a few tracks. They are really good at setting the mood, but it's not going to blow you away anytime soon. Visually, it has a really interesting style. It almost like just fairly solid colors, a very hand-drawn art style, blown up, scales really well to any resolution, but then it has a fair amount of frames of animation in the hand-drawn characters. You're playing the role of Stella, and you've got a cat named Daffodil who you take over as the Spiritfarer, bringing different spirits to the afterlife that are sort of stuck on the earth, almost like a purgatory type thing. And they're represented by different creatures. Like they might be humanoid at first, but their spirit form is like could be a deer, could be a lion, could be anything like that. And you're on a boat, and you're doing a bit of simulation management. So you've got a basic boat, but then you've got to build things like a guest house, a kitchen, park benches, and you have a space on your ship that you can rearrange where things are, and that builds like ladders to go to different levels. So there's a bit of like almost like a SimCity management aspect to it. And when you collect somebody, they'll have certain things they want. Like I want to eat popcorn is one of the first things that happens in the game. So you've got to go on your map, track a path to different areas that pop up that you can either fish from, you can pick up debris, or there'll be things floating in the air that you can sort of smack and collect to get things like jam, or to get things like, oh, now I've got corn, and you can go build your kitchen with your resources you've picked up and pop some popcorn, give it to the person, give them a hug, and they're happy. And then eventually you take them to the afterlife, and they go through the archway, and then boom, you're on to the next person. And that gameplay loop is surprisingly calming. I had a really good time playing it. There's a lot more. I didn't completely 100% the game yet because I wanted to really take my time with it, but I know the loop and how it works now, and I found that it's very almost like cathartic and calming to play before bed, just to chill out for like an hour and, fishing. Sometimes you pick up a boot. Sometimes you get herrings. It's a very well put together indie title, and it actually does do the streaming service justice. It's obviously going to play well on any other platform you put it on, but it was something that was buttery smooth, and I could play it on any device. Like I played it. I didn't use the Chromecast Ultra because I got that packed away now that you can connect controllers wirelessly through the computer. So I was playing on Windows 10 through my Chrome browser, and then I ended up playing it on my phone. So I was able to just pick up and play where I went, and it was fine that way too. So pretty happy with it. I can see myself playing it for a dozen more hours. Like you're probably going to get 30 or 40 hours out of this thing if you take your time. Well worth the money. If you have Stadia as a platform, you want to check it out, it will work, and you're not going to be too concerned with the data rate, because even if you set it to 720p, it's not going to use too much of your data and still look very pretty. Or you can check it out on other platforms if you don't have the bandwidth available for the Stadia platform. But I will say this, it's one of the better looking and better performing titles on Stadia, so if you've got that service and you're liking it, it's definitely one to check out.
What makes you qualified to be a reporter? I'm willing to violate anyone's privacy for my personal gain and then claim with a straight face that the public has a right to know.
By the hand of Zeus, what manner of deviltry is this?
I love fake alien poop day.
Well, thank you very much, Alex, for that review. And, well, it is time to bring up the strange, the unusual, the things that I'm sure will be written down in supermarket tabloids everywhere It's the weird news only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. This first story comes courtesy of a reputable outlet and Variety, of all places. Tim Allen and Richard Karn reunite for a building competition series Assembly Required at the History Channel. There's a home improvement reunion on the cards at History. The network has issued a 10-episode order for an unscripted series called Assembly Required, working title, which will star Tim Allen and will be hosted by Richard Karn. Assembly Required is described as a competition series which is sounding the call for those with a can-do attitude to take back their sense of purpose and awaken their inner builder. Its aim is to spotlight the best and brightest builders across the country at their home workshops as they compete to breathe new life into everyday household items in desperate need of fixing. In each episode, Allen and Karn will dive into a unique history around these items to celebrate the men and women who crafted them. Let's face it, we're living in a throwaway society, said Allen in a statement. We buy, break, replace, rinse, and repeat. Whatever happened to repair and rebuild? There are some people who unfriend, unfollow, and dispose of anything that offends, annoys, or breaks, so I've created a show to remind people of the satisfaction and pride that comes with rebuilding something on their own. And who better to join me than my old buddy of the old Tool Time days, Richard Karn. Now we're talking more power. Albert Einstein once said, I'm not a genius, I'm just passionately curious. Well, let's get curious, and even a chimpanzee would at least show some interest, right? Wait, I think I just came up with another idea for a show, and then he does that R sound I'm not going to impersonate. Allen and Karn will executive produce the series, along with Brent Montgomery, Ed Simpson, Joe Weinstock, Will Nottenhacker, Simon Thomas, Vince Cartati, Catherine D. Fox, and a bunch of other fuckers. So
basically, it's American Pickers meets
Home Improvement
by way of wash-ups.
It's weird. So one of the statements says here, our history is defined by the innovation of ordinary dreamers creating extraordinary things, from Thomas Edison's light bulb to the Wright brothers' first flight, said Lear, Executive Vice President and General Manager of History. We look forward to partnering with Tim and Richard, America's beloved duo, as they challenge a new wave of skilled individuals to think out of the box to build upon innovations of those before them. We hope this series will inspire viewers to think twice about throwing away that old item, roll up their sleeves, and rebuild it better. The show hails from Wheelhouse Entertainment, Spoke Studios, ITV America, and Boxing Cat Entertainment. Interesting idea.
Hasn't his sitcom been on for a million years now, the new one?
What's it called? Last Man Standing? No. Is it? I don't know. Isn't Tim Allen like a massive douchebag?
I know he got arrested for DUI smoking pot back in the day, which is kind of funny.
And I know he's like a super conservative, but...
Well, his show is kind of too, but I don't know. I don't know how much of that is propaganda and how much of that is, for the character. Like, you don't hear a lot of good things about him, but you don't hear a lot of bad things about him. Richard Karn, though, you never hear anything bad about.
Of course, because everybody loves Al Borland.
For the most part.
As well you should.
Which Haley Joel Osment is looking more and more like a miniature version
I know,
of him.
Right? There was a problem at the cloning facility. So this next story...
We cloned a clone, and this is what came out.
Yeah, something was left in the test tube, and we're sorry. So this next story, and it comes with a bit of a preface. We're not making fun of the mentally ill.
Oh.
This is merely an unusual thing.
Is this preface? This is the preface, Alex? I'm going to preface this now so you don't accidentally laugh when I say it.
Yes. Kanye West has qualified for the Idaho presidential ballot.
Wait, stop before you go any further so I can make my joke.
Yes.
Were you prefacing that because I'm going to laugh at him?
Well, he's had a rather public meltdown recently, but we'll get to that.
I'm a genius, he's been saying for years.
Yeah.
I'm the greatest performer, musician, creator of all time, when 90% of my music is just sampled, ripped off from other people.
I've heard a few of his songs, and they're okay.
Yeah, okay, Stevie Wonder's a musical genius.
Yes.
He is not Stevie Wonder.
No. So, an official with the Idaho Secretary of State's office said the rapper turned in 1,022 verified signatures, meeting Idaho's 1,000 signature minimum requirement. Rapper Kanye West has qualified to appear on Idaho's presidential ballot this November as an independent candidate, the Idaho Secretary of State's office said Tuesday. Deputy Secretary of State Jason Hancock says Kanye turned in 1,022 verified signatures, meeting Idaho's 1,000 signature minimum requirement. West announced his independent bid in a tweet on July 4th, but he has struggled to meet deadlines to make it on the ballot in several states. He has already qualified in Utah, Arkansas, Colorado, and other states. Former child actor and cryptocurrency entrepreneur Brock Pierce and perennial candidate Rock De La Fuente have also qualified as independent presidential candidates in Idaho. Kanye West.
You know what?
Seek some help.
There is a point. Well, no, there's a point where you're so rich that nobody can force you to take your pills.
Yeah, and him and Kim have had it out on Twitter. His wife, Kim Kardashian, and it's clear that something has happened.
To the point where I believe, don't quote me, but from what I've been seeing people saying is that she's admitting he has severe mental health problems.
Yeah.
And she normally that family it's all about spin and guarding their image.
Yeah.
But I feel like she's hit a point where she's like, we can't avoid, the only way to maybe shock him into taking his medication is to reveal that he's not well.
Yeah. And
there was a video that came out of when Dave Chappelle went to visit him, and he's not acting right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like he's like acting like he's on stage or something. He's behaving erratic like somebody who has some severe mental issue.
Yeah. Now, from what I understand, he is bipolar, much like I am. I'm bipolar too, for example.
But he's also behaving like
there's something else with
the movements. Not that I'm saying he's hallucinating, but it appears like he's starting to lose his grip on reality. Not in the sense of like, oh my God, he's falling into a psychosis, but you know what I mean. Like he's losing his ability to connect.
You should read some of his quotes regarding his presidential bid. They're something else.
Are they supporting my statement of that he doesn't appear to be he doesn't have a grip on what's happening?
He's not well.
Okay.
Is what I will say officially.
Yeah, and that see if you're super duper poor, and you can't. Okay, if you're poor and destitute, can't live on your own, there would be a facility he would be in for help, like he would be in a government home. If you were medium income up into like somewhat rich, there you would have family or doctors or somebody mandate you take your pills. He's at the point where he's so rich that they would literally have to pay a security guard to force feed him his pills if he doesn't want to take them, because he's so rich that he could just do what he wants.
And that's part of the reason why he's running. He can just do what he wants.
Yeah.
And there are thoughts out there in the political space that he's doing it to spoil. And this will be the last thing I'll say about this. Then we'll move on to our next story.
Of course. Yeah, we're, honestly, we're not making fun of him.
No, we're really not.
It's like, but it is.
It's weird.
It's if you're rich, you're eccentric.
Yeah.
If you're not rich, you're crazy.
Yeah.
That's the traditional term, right?
So this next story is interesting because I think it's amusing in a sad way and tragic from the times. So do you remember I talked about the Sturgis motorcycle rally last week?
The one where Chris Jericho played with his band?
Yeah. So Smash Mouth played there as well. So Smash Mouth Sturgis show connected to 100 plus COVID-19 cases.
Oh, they rounded the whole place up.
As reported by Brooklyn Vegan, Smash Mouth is connected to approximately 100 new cases of COVID-19. The band recently played the Sturgis Motorcycle Festival with other bands. Yes.
Can you sue the band?
I don't know.
You said it was going to be safe, and you got me sick.
There's probably something you signed when you bought your tickets.
What, sign a I'm stupid clause?
Maybe, actually. Maybe.
We can't be sued for your stupidity.
So the band recently played at the Sturgis Motorcycle Festival with other bands including Night Ranger, the Kenny Wayne Shepherd Band, Buck Cherry, Lit, 38 Special, Quiet Riot, Reverend Horton Heat, and Bone Thugs and Harmony. During the Smash Mouth set and the festival as a whole, attendees ignored social distancing guidelines, including getting close to each other, refusing to wear a mask. During the Smash Mouth set, lead singer Steve Harwell said, "Now we're all here together tonight, and we're being human once and for all. Fuck that COVID shit."
Hey now, you're all sick. You all got the plague.
Well, it appears that simply yelling "fuck that COVID shit" was not enough to ward off the virus. A representative for the South Dakota Health Department said they've linked at least 40 COVID-19 cases directly to the rally. Meanwhile, the North Dakota Department of Health tracked 17 in-state cases to the rally and further stated that at least 103 connected cases have also spread to Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, Washington, Wisconsin,
Here's
and
your
Wyoming.
third wave, America.
Yep.
And also, if you saw the footage and when they showed that, they weren't the most sanitary people that were attending this. They didn't look clean. It was too huddled together.
Well, yeah, it was way too close.
That's what I'm saying. It's people sweating, coughing, talking, laughing, drinking, spitting around each other in an enclosed place. It looked dirty, the facilities.
Well, even being outside, people were packed way too close
That's
together.
what I'm saying. It was not sanitary.
No, not at all. So, despite this, Smash Mouth has not had occasion for reflection. Rather, following the new infection, Smash Mouth somewhat flippantly posted hate mail sent to them on their Instagram and labeled it as fan mail. In the post, they strangely also included bits of a smashed up Smash Mouth CD available for 33 cents domestically, I might add. You can see Smash Mouth's post below.
The last Smash Mouth CD I saw was at Dollarama for like 69 cents or some bullshit because nobody wanted it.
I will say one of my favorite CDs growing up, like in high school, was Smash Mouth's Fushu Mang, which I still really enjoy today. But their follow-up, Astro Lounge, I didn't like at all.
They were relatively one-hit wondery.
I'd say they had a good first album, but they didn't. Once they became the Shrek Band, that was it.
Which was pretty much right away.
Yeah, like once they did All-Star, they were done. And Mystery Men.
Nobody says you have to be intelligent or compassionate to be in a band.
So this next story, Alex, I hope you'll get a kick out of. This one comes courtesy of the metro.co.uk.
Okay, all right, our British friends.
Shopper called police over fear a supermarket turkey was actually a severed human penis. A worried shopper called police over fears a piece of turkey she'd bought was actually a severed human penis.
Was it the gizzard?
I think it was something weird like that.
Like a turkey neck?
I think that was it. So, Lamia Singfield from Akron, Ohio, appealed for help after noticing one of the smoked turkey tails. Sorry.
Oh, so this is in the States. This isn't.
Yes.
So it was British paper.
Yes, but it picked up on the American story. After noticing one of the smoked turkey tails looked dramatically different to others in the packet. She went on Facebook Live to ask friends for their thoughts and became increasingly worried that the mystery meat bought from a local Save-A-Lot supermarket to put in a smoked bean casserole was actually a man's member. In a footage first flagged by the Akron Beacon Journal, Lamia said, "I'm calling Save-A-Lot. This ain't right. I know what this is. I hope it's not human because somebody is missing something that they need, or somebody might be dead. I just want answers."
You know what a telltale sign is? Check if it has a bone in it, because real wieners don't have bones.
I don't know what's in a turkey tail.
It's got to be a bone.
It's got to be, I guess.
Not to mention, like, even if it looked like it, you think that it would pass all the hands, and the cashier and everybody would look at it and not go that something's wrong with it.
It was weird. So there's like a tweet here, but it's all just hashtags.
Hashtag stupid, hashtag moron, hashtag store sounds like made up from.
Well, it's weird how
it sounds like the food and stuff from Parks and Rec, like a made up store.
Okay, it's weird. Okay, so part of her hashtags, she hashtags the DL Hewley show. Okay, mukbang. Don't look that up on YouTube.
It's just people eating lots of food.
Yeah, that's fucking weird.
I think didn't it start out in Korea?
Yeah, because my like niece showed me. I'm thinking
the first one I saw that was when they were eating the super spicy noodles to see how much they could eat. But it's literally
gorging yourself.
It's lonely dudes watch girls eat lots of food. That was the original intention. They've even admitted that. It's like, and you get tips and stuff. It's like cam girling, but only eating.
Jesus,
it's a whole industry over there.
So Lamia was further concerned after realizing her receipt said the packet contained turkey tails, only for the packaging itself to claim its contents were pork tails. Police arrived on the scene shortly afterwards and were seen taking the phallic-shaped piece of meat away for an examination. On Wednesday, a medical examiner ruled the meat was not human and was almost certainly pork. It was believed that a pork tail with a bone still inside, which is likely responsible for the flesh's phallic appearance. A Save-A-Lot spokesman said they were taking the complaint very seriously and would escalate it if contacted by Lamia or the police.
Had this lady never seen a pig's tail before?
Truthfully, I never have outside of a cartoon.
Maybe it's just an Italian thing. Pig's tails are delicious.
This bothers me. So, Lamia said she has hired an attorney and accused Save-A-Lot of selling her mislabeled meat. That is a frivolous lawsuit if I've ever heard one.
Well, if the packaging says turkey and then it says pork, you just go, this is a mislabel. And then that's
shit happens. It's somebody with a label gun.
Or at the very least, you can do the thing, I don't know if they have it there, like, here, if the prices are wrong on the label versus what comes up on the screen,
you just go
if it's under $20 or $30, you're supposed to get it for free as part of a Labeling Standards Act.
Yeah.
So, you just say, hey, this is the wrong label. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Take your win or take your
It
whatever.
would only become an issue
if it was dangerous.
If the label on the... not the label on the package, if... Like, it sounds like the label on the store was different than the label on the package.
Yeah.
If the label on the package was the wrong meat, for instance, if you're like, I was expecting to get ground turkey in tubes that you couldn't see, and it turns out to be ground pork, and
you're allergic?
and I'm Jewish or I'm Muslim, and I'm not.
It's not halal or whatever.
Not halal or not kosher. It's the wrong meat. It's then you're literally you wouldn't sue the store. You'd sue
the company.
Manufacturer, saying, "Hey, you forced me to break my religious things because you lied to me about what's in the meat." Then you'd have a case, but not against the store.
Yeah, so that's dumb. So this next story I think is kind of funny. This one comes courtesy of the Billings Gazette. It wasn't until the following day that Kathy Kenyon considered whether her bold approach to shooing 3 bears out of her kitchen might have been unsafe. At the same time, stupidly, I didn't feel that afraid, the Red Lodge resident recalled of the Sunday night encounter. Kenyon was watching television around 9:30 p.m. in the house she and her husband Don Redfoot have lived since 2018. The house is about a mile west of Red Lodge, along the west fork of Rock Creek. Everything from white-tailed deer to moose, bobcats, and large predator like black bears and mountain lions have been photographed on their property using a game camera. We get used to seeing wildlife, Kenyon said, but when something black and furry scurried into the TV room, then quickly back out, her first thought that it wasn't that it was a bear cub. Instead, she thought it might have been one of the neighbor's black dogs. Stepping into the doorway to the kitchen to investigate, she quickly figured out the intruder was a mother black bear and her 2 cubs. They had pushed out a screen in a partly open window and crawled in to dine on freshly bought peaches and Hershey's chocolates. Redfoot was in the bedroom when he heard a crash and went to investigate, calling out to his wife, Kathy, what are you doing in there? Stepping around the corner, he came face to face with a mama bear. He quickly opened the front door, hoping to give the bear an escape route. The black bear was only about 10 feet away. It wasn't like she was being threatening, it was like she wanted to greet me, he said. Unwilling to find out the bear's intentions, Redfoot quickly retreated to the bedroom and closed the door. Dawn, there's a bear in the house, Kenyon called out after seeing the bears. Her first instinct was to find her cell phone, call the local Fish, Wildlife, and Parks game warden, Matt Heaton, for advice. Instead, she decided to clap and yell at the bears to see if she could scare them back outside. The mother bear jumped out the open window, but the cubs lingered while eating the chocolates. At some point in the confusion, she yelled at Redfoot to take a photograph. I mean of the cubs, not me, she said. Dawn is always taking pictures. To urge the last cub out, Kenyon picked up the dislodged window screen and advanced. She estimated the screen was about 5 feet long. That screen was certainly effective protection, Redfoot said. I haven't been able to talk to Matt about whether I should have done that, Kenyon said of the Fish and Game warden. He probably would have said you were out of your mind, Redfoot said and laughed. But Kenyon felt safe since he was close to the adjacent room and a door she could quickly close if her bluff was called. So it wasn't as insane as it looks in the picture, Kenyon said. With a gentle prodding, the cub left through the window. It never appeared threatening or fierce. It had appeared nonchalant and not too concerned about me. The photo posted on Redfoot's Facebook page shows Kenyon in her profile, her mouth wide open, her hands clapping across the kitchen about 10 feet on a shelf below the window. 2 large furry black bear cubs lurk. I don't think I ever touched him with the screen, Kenyon said. I would beg to differ, Redfoot interjected. The tactic worked. The cub left. Kenyon rushed over to quickly close the window behind it. That's when the mama bear's face popped into view at very close range. That was the point when I thought, oh, Kathy, what have you done? The mama bear was trying to crawl back in. That's when I began to question whether I had made the prudent decision. I would not recommend what I did in most circumstances. On the other hand, we had minor damage. After their eviction, the bears lingered outside the window. They remained for a couple of minutes looking at us like they were expecting us to invite them back in. Redfoot said the bears returned the next day but didn't gain entry this time. The mama bear is teaching her cubs bad habits. And then there's a bunch of photos, and it goes on like this.
Did I miss here? I thought you said they killed 3 bears.
Nope, they just came in and had dinner.
I was waiting for the part where like they invited the bears back in, grabbed a shotgun, and went to town.
No, I'm actually going to show you the picture. That's about how far away they were.
Yeah.
So from me to the door.
Yeah.
No.
I've been in a paddle boat with a bear like that, and I'm like, what do I do? And my mom's like, nothing.
And then that's how close they were the following day.
They look like small compared to a grizzly, but they can be
They're big.
Mean.
Yeah.
Very strong, evil dogs is basically the best way to describe them.
When on my reservation, it's not uncommon to see black bears, and the general rule is don't fuck with them. And as we said last week when we talked about the bison lady, don't fuck with animals.
Well, especially black bears. I forget if it's brown bears or black bears that are more defensive. I think it's black bears.
I think so.
And
especially with cubs.
At my grandparents' cottage, they used to be up there, and we go to the dump because back in the day, all the people that would rent cottages for the summer would leave stuff like televisions and crap there. So you go to the dump, and this is before you had to start paying to get junk out of the dump. You just go there, pick up whatever you wanted. And my parents would be like, I'm like 5, like, don't go any farther or you'll fall down and the bears will eat you. And I'm like, what? And you look over the edge of the mountains of garbage, and you're like, 100 feet away at the bottom of the hill, there's just like 7 bears.
Yep.
And I'm like, what are they there for? Scraps of garbage and any children that fall. That's what my parents told me. Because they said, if you fall down there, we can't get you.
Yep, it's true. There was a garbage dump near my house, and I used to go there with my friends because, we're adventurous kids, and we would go garbage picking.
I got transistor radios and stuff as a kid that you wouldn't have got any other way.
I found really weird and expensive toys. There was nothing wrong with
I got a race car steering wheel.
I got a bunch of X-Men figures and a bunch of other shit. But yeah, we went to the dump near where I used to live, and prowling the perimeter, you could see bears. So we always had our bikes, and the rule was if you go into the dump, you don't go alone. You go with a friend, and you watch each other's backs.
And you stay 6 feet away from the edge of a hill.
Yeah, because you don't go near hills.
Because the hill, it's not like the whole thing was garbage, but the ground could tumble or you could trip.
Yeah, it's not stable.
And they didn't at the dumps back then, and I don't even think they do now. They didn't put like a fence up. It was just back then. This is before a lot of the dumping laws changed. You just threw whatever it was there. So you would find we found a black and white TV to use at the cottage, and they'd be all in perfect working order. The only thing you wouldn't pick up furniture for the most part unless it was left at the edge, like when people at the end of the summer would leave stuff.
Yeah,
but you would find things like, you want a coat rack?
Yeah.
You get it there, clean it off, and people think, it sounds dirty. These weren't dirty items. No. The dirty garbage bags and all that stuff were thrown down to where the bears were. But yeah, it's like the scariest bear, more scary than like random bear in the wilderness when you're in a paddle boat on a lake, dump bears because they're hungry.
Yeah, and they're not afraid of you. So, in short, don't fuck with bears.
Don't fuck with dump bears.
Yeah, don't fuck with dump bears. And if they're in your house, leave your house.
Yes.
So anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the Weird News. We are going to take a break, and we're going to travel to the lands of Golarion, where if you want to fuck with a bear, you've probably got a 2-foot bastard sword, and you can do that, which I don't recommend you kill.
Yeah, you see, my parents never gave me a bastard sword to go after the dump bears. If I had had a bastard sword, I probably could have taken a dump bear or two. Maybe not when I was 5.
We'll be back, guys, right here, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He has been Alice the Producer. We'll be back right after this.
Pathfinder.
Satan's game. Your children, like it or not, are attracted in their weaker years to the occult, and a game like
Pathfinder
fuels their imagination and makes them feel special while drawing them deeper and deeper into the bowels of El Diablo. This afternoon, our invites you to sit in on an actual gaming session. Observe the previously unobservable as a hidden camera takes you to the inner sanctum of
Pathfinder.
Hey guys, Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk about a game that I got for review from Deep Silver and Owlcat Games. This is Pathfinder Kingmaker Definitive Edition on the PlayStation 4. A review copy was provided to us. So this is one of the games that I was really unsure about. I have been a Pathfinder player since probably about 2013. I've played a lot of Pathfinder First Edition. You should see my role-playing shelf. You could say I'm pretty familiar with the lands of Golarion, the Inner Sea, and whatnot. I have immersed myself, in fact, actually back to Kickstarter once upon a time, and I am part of the official canon of Pathfinder. Well, at least as far as concerned as Freeport, my character Thera Narleth exists as one of the pirate captains who helps ferry people across the sea. But I digress. So, getting into this game, this is a version from a PC that has been ported to consoles, and I didn't know whether I would like this game or not. I never have been into those dungeon crawly kind of simulation things. And there are options in here where you can turn off certain features of the game, which I did because I wanted to feature my dungeon crawling experience. And more specifically, what can I do to min-max? Basically, what can I bring in from my tabletop knowledge to play with this game, given what I have for my stats? So what I did is, amongst this game's immensely deep character creation, you get like 15 or 16 character classes off the hop in like a bunch of different races. Ones I didn't expect, like tieflings. I certainly didn't expect that. I chose a barbarian armored Hulk. I was an elven woman, which is kind of awesome. I had an almost maxed out strength and dexterity score, so I'm obviously hitting hard with melee weapons. I'm going to be doing awesome with like ranged weapons. And I maxed out my constitution. Now, and I was also surprisingly charismatic as well, which means when I came across things, I could mess with people's heads and whatnot. And I was surprised by this, especially in the first little while, because there are actually role-playing sessions where stuff like, not quite diplomacy checks, but things matter, where your alignment comes into effect, where you might be having a conversation. Oh, this is a neutral good choice. This is a chaotic good choice. Or this is lawful evil. That sort of thing. And I was like, wow, holy shit. Did not expect the level of depth here. If you're really familiar with the Pathfinder role-playing game system, there is a lot here you're going to recognize, especially if you know the rules, you know how they function, which means a really smart person could, I'm not saying you could like break the game, but you're going to have an advantage over someone who doesn't necessarily know everything. And that's something about this game too I noticed. There is a very steep learning curve. In fact, it took me like several hours to kind of get the hang of combat, to using the like action bar. And one thing I did, which as far as I understand, this is fairly new. It started out as a community thing and then was made official. Turn-based mode, and I've been playing in turn-based mode the entire time because, man, I can't imagine playing this in real time, because, no. But it's cool, like, you can plan out your attacks. Like, I want to charge that person. How many hexes am I going to move? Not quite visible hexes, but it does measure feet. I want to cast Bless. I want to use my abilities to do X, Y, Z. And it's so in-depth and rewarding that I didn't quite expect that from a console port. Like, that really impressed me. Like, I've been looking for the definitive Pathfinder experience because I never quite got it in my, like, role-playing games with my various game masters, and not to knock them, but they weren't as steeped in the lore, they weren't as steeped in the combat as this game is. And just hearing them talk about the Inner Sea, the Stolen Lands, the Pathfinder Society, and just even having little things like little side characters giving you little quests. Like one of the really early ones is find my wedding ring. It was taken by bandits. Stuff like that. My husband gave it to me and it would mean a lot if you could do that. Or hey, get this item for me. There's so much here to love. If if you're into this. Now, I also read there was some problems about playing this on a stock PlayStation 4. This is one of the things that I read. Mine did stutter a little bit in dungeons. I don't know. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't game-breaking, but it was a little distracting for like a couple of minutes, but I'm willing to let that go. Overall, Pathfinder Kingmaker Definitive Edition makes me really happy as a role-playing fan. And because this is the Definitive Edition, it has like all the DLC, all the content, all the new classes, all the new weapons, everything that has ever been released for this game. And because you're staying inside because you're smart, and you're not going anywhere because you're smart, this is going to take over your life if you let it, and especially if you open it up to play with some of the more advanced options. There's a lot you can do here. Pathfinder Kingmaker Definitive Edition surprised me. I did not expect such a deep and rewarding role-playing experience. It's also almost entirely fully voiced, which was kind of awesome because my Elven Barbarian was kind of an airhead from the voice that I was able to choose. And I kind of love it how I'm this bubbly armored death machine, and it kind of made things kind of special. So can I recommend Pathfinder Kingmaker? Yes. If you are willing to spend the time with it to learn the systems inside and out, if you're willing to let yourself be absorbed into a whole new world, maybe this will encourage you to pick up the tabletop role-playing game, and you can play either first edition or second edition. But seriously, this is an unexpected joy that I really, really recommend. I had a blast with it. I am going to go back and see if I can beat more of this because, damn, I've got myself months and months of material, and I intend to be death incarnate with my two-handed greatsword.
I want to cast Magic Missile.
The room where he's casting all these spells from!
He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting Magic Missile.
Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here.
I'm attacking the darkness.
Turn on that radio and back here. The cops ain't likely to catch up with us, not tonight. So we can all be quiet and peaceable and listen to the music.
All right, well, that is the kind of show it has been here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been one of your hosts, Mike the Birdman, and it's been weird. Don't fuck with dump bears. We've had our little conversation about Chadwick Boseman's passing, and we also got talking about what the hell Xbox is going to do, theaters. It's been a pretty intense news week, all things considered. Plus, if you mistake a turkey tail for a man's penis, maybe reconsider your eyeglass prescription.
It almost sounded like a classic episode of the show.
Yeah, it really did. It's so out there.
When we rebooted it a few years back.
Jesus. So, yeah.
Severed penises, don't fuck with dump bears, movie theater plagues. It's pretty much... That's what it is.
All that's missing is Gilbert Gottfried. Coming up on the site this week, I'm recording with the nerds, the third people. This week we are talking about Nickelodeon, I believe. I will be talking about the history and impact of the show Double Dare, which is one of the first children's television shows for gaming that really took the nation by storm.
I only know about from the video game. I didn't know it existed as a show until way later in life.
There's a really cool documentary on YouTube from a channel called Pop Arena. It's 2 hours. He's got actual quotes from people who worked on the show. This guy's channel is criminally underappreciated for the work that he puts in. So we're doing that. Me, Aaron, and Alex will be doing yet another loose cannon. And what are we going to be looking at this week?
The Immortalizer.
And how would you summarize this movie?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay,
Aaron did, and he's like, he said it scored lower on his B-movie scale, but that means it's potentially a better movie.
Okay, so we'll have to check that out.
He did say it was a slow run at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, I've never heard of this. This is weird. And I'm like, yes.
Okay.
Because he's the older cub of the pack, and he's the B-movie nut. And if he hasn't heard of it, then I know I've done my job getting that as a review copy.
We're also going to be talking about this week. You should have already seen this pop up on your feed, where me and JT talk about alternate super teams, although ultimately we ended up talking just Wildstorm. We talked about Gen 13 and Wildcats. I'm actually reading the Gen 13 comics right now. I really like this series. I really hope it does get a reboot at some point.
The only thing I know of Wildcats is the cartoon. Wildcats, Wildcats.
I didn't know there were multiple volumes of Wildcats, which kind of surprised me. We also talked about some other things we're going to talk about on the show. Actually, I went to my local library this past week, and I picked up some new books, because libraries have a wall of graphic novels. So I picked up Neil Gaiman's The Sandman spin-off, Death, The High Cost of Living, and Death, Time of Your Life. And I think...
Cool.
I can't remember who wrote the book. It's called Strangers in Paradise, which was always recommended to me in the 90s, so I want to check that out because I don't know what it's about.
You know, I didn't think about it. I should renew my library card because they actually have a sizable, large collection of audiobooks that aren't even available in digital formats yet.
Yeah.
Like older ones that were recorded in the 90s that are, you know, maybe they've had a version since, maybe not, but like that's one thing that a library can do if they're not available on Audible or other formats.
Mm-hmm.
That you might be able to find some cool shit that way.
Yeah, like I was genuinely surprised at how thrilling going to the library was. And my local library liked my tweet on Twitter. We both follow each other back and forth. So that was really fun.
Ooh, you going to marry your library?
I am. I'm so excited. And my library's got video games. I couldn't get down to the DVD section because I couldn't get my wheelchair into the elevator. Plus, it's small, so I don't trust it.
It's probably one of those older building elevators.
It is, yeah. So
yeah, they renovated ours in town where it's like a double wide one now.
They want to build $100 and something million library here in Guelph,
that's what they did for ours.
Which I'm excited for, but
now if
our mayor's fighting against it. So
yeah, well, ours was they did it because 500,000 people. Like
yeah.
it was time to renovate the building, and they built a wing that is like just 3D printers.
Oh wow!
And another section that is I think 3 or 4 podcast studios.
Oh, that's really cool.
They even have musical equipment in there. Full mixing boards, computers to work on, all the software licenses, and you can rent them in 1-hour blocks.
That's pretty awesome.
So, like, it's like, where'd the money go? Does your library have
3D printers?
Have podcast? They have podcast studios, and I think 1 or 2 are musical studios where you could record your album.
That's really impressive.
And mix it there with like, you know, $10,000-$15,000 mixing boards.
Welcome to the future. The future is now.
They said, how are we going to get people to really use the community library? And they're like, 3D printers, audio production.
Innovate, my son. Innovate.
I think they even have green screens where you can do like a video podcast.
Oh, wow. Coming up from me and Alex, we're going to be working on more Turd or Treasures. Obviously, we'll have the new show this week. We are returning with Future Imperfect as Steve is in the process of moving right now. So we're going to be coming back with Future Imperfect. We're going to look at, this is a topic we did like 2014, so it's about time. We're going to look at the best Star Trek pilots, because we've had a bunch since then, and some we never even considered in our original. So we're going to take a look at everything from the original The Cage.
The original unaired pilot, all the way up to a couple of the most recent ones.
Yes, so we're going to look at Picard, we're going to look at Lower Decks, we're going to look at everything. What has worked, what hasn't worked, and what maybe deserves a second chance. So that'll be exciting for us to do on there.
Yeah. It's a good way to say, like, Trek's always had that traditional thing where people said the pilots weren't good, but it'll be interesting to see, did they represent what the shows became?
Yeah. As I have been promising for quite some time, the TWIG Book Club, I'm finally starting to get some time figured out right now, as I am starting school in next week, actually. Next week. I start on September 8th. I got my welcome package. Things are starting to get exciting, folks. So don't worry, I'm still going to be doing everything I do here on the show. Website stuff is moving forward at a pretty good pace. Me and Alex are just getting ready to finalize some details today. The website
We've got a back end, I think, picked out.
Yep, we got a back end picked out, and we're looking at an artist. The soft launch will probably be around my birthday, October 20th. That is the goal. And hopefully you will be joining us during that time.
Yeah, it's not like magically going to be this like massive new site. The idea is to make it
more modern.
More modern, scalable to all platforms, and easier for us to view and use, and easier for anybody else to view and use.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we want to make a better experience for you, and it seems like we do a website refresh about every 4 to 5 years anyway.
Yeah, I think the current one is like version 5.
Yeah, it was 2016 was the last time it was
Yeah,
updated.
because I remember version 1 was a single blog page. But the version I think most people probably remember
was the red scheme.
Was version 3.0, I think.
Yeah.
And then you had version 4, and then this was the one that came out after, I think.
Yeah, so we got our wonderful friend at Geekcast Radio, Steve's going to be working on it for us. Alex is going to work on it as well. And we're just going to be doing more things for you. So look forward to that. Once again, thank you to everybody who has been a fan for the last 13 years. Without Alex's help, I could not do this wonderful show. Without you, the fans, we would not exist. And to all the wonderful companies that send us review crap, whether we love it or hate it, we do thank you for your service. So until next time, my Twig friends, we have been
Alex the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next week right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Well, that's our show. All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
You've been listening to This Week in Geek, your source for guaranteed nonsense or your money back. Tune in next week for more info on the most important things you didn't need to know. Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes or any podcatcher. If you'd like to comment on this episode, head over to this episode's post at ThisWeekInGeek.net and leave a comment through Facebook Connect. Follow us on Twitter at ThisWeekInGeek.net and follow our Instagram at twig_official_podcast. Social media not your thing? Send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. We'll see you next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens.
What?
It ends.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.